great delivery experience helps marketplaces become more convenient. And I think this is a crucial session. We all often look at how to optimize our marketplace listings, but perhaps we don't spend quite as much time looking at how to optimize the delivery experience, especially on marketplaces. It's not like your own website where you're fully in control. On a marketplace, you've often got the marketplace rules as well to comply with, and things like cut-off times can't be specified quite as clearly as on your own website. So I'm delighted today to be joined by Daniela and Ben, both from Autopia, to talk about delivery and fulfillment. So welcome, Daniela. Welcome, Ben. How are you today?
Thank you, Chris. Very, very good. Very excited to be on Tame Bay Live today. It's the first time for me, so I'm really, really happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. And hi, Ben. How are you doing?
Hey, Chris. Yeah, really good. Thanks. And as Daniela said, thanks for having us. Really happy to be.
Excellent. So, Daniela, do you want to open and kind of set the scene for the delivery experience? What can you share with us today?
Yes, of course. We're basically going to be talking about like this secret power of delivery to, like you were mentioning before, deliver a great experience for your customers, especially when it comes to marketplaces, and to help them become more convenient. We're going to be going through this convenient concept a little bit more in depth in the following minutes, but also to see how this delivery can also be turned into a driver of growth for your business, which is very important. It's something key that needs to be unveiled for marketplaces. So let's get started. And just a quick introduction of who we are. So we are both in Autopia, like you were mentioning before. I am head of product marketing. So I'm responsible for getting to know my customer needs and also future customer needs and objectives when it comes to their marketplace projects, so that I can deliver them with relevant content on the different solutions that Autopia can deliver for marketplace projects, but also in a differentiated way, and in a way that they can exploit all the different features that we develop for them to address all these different needs. So I'll leave Benjamin Hamilton to introduce himself now.
Thanks, Daniela. And hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Ben. I'm on the fulfillment team here at Autopia. We'll come on to, if you guys don't know what fulfillment is, then no worries. We'll cover that. That's kind of the purpose of the pitch. But in general, my team and I, on behalf of the vendors that work for us, we take care of everything between the moment that someone clicks order and the moment where that person receives a product with which they are satisfied. Generally, that is our perimeter.
Thank you, Ben. So just to open up the floor on the topic that we are here to cover. So I like this image that we are showing here with this girl in her phone, and the phrase, we now live in a world of convenience. So in a world that we're looking to simply live our lives, to make everything easy, to access products and services as easy as possible, whenever we want it and when we want it. So some examples of this convenience are embodied by some companies that we see that we are mostly familiar with. So if we look at, for example, Spotify, we no longer need to go to the store to get a CD and to buy our favorite music artist or gender or whatever. We just click on our phone and we have access to this. If we're going to go on vacation and we want to rent a house in a specific place, we can probably use Airbnb and just set the spot, the number of guests, the dates, and that's it. So pretty much all this is what embodies convenience. And if we take a look to something more specific that we are going to be discussing today, to retail, it's also about convenience. Convenience is something that is driving the new expectations of modern consumers today, because they are looking for many different things when they go into a marketplace or into an e-commerce site, when they're looking to have a very good experience of purchasing, because they are not only buying the product, they are basically buying an experience here. So it's very important for us to cover all the different expectations that they're looking for. So taking a closer look into the retail world, marketplaces are basically the leaders when it comes to reshaping convenience, because they are the best business model that addresses all these different expectations that we have from consumers these days. If you look at the main characteristics of this, we can see that there is this need for availability anywhere at any time. So basically, you can begin your purchasing journey in the morning on your telephone, and then continue it on your laptop when you're at work, of course, at the break time. And then you can finish it again on your phone when you're going back home. So you can have it delivered probably the next day at your doorstep. So this is quite key today. And then the extended choice. What does this mean? Is that, of course, you want to have access to a large diversity of products. And you have this feeling that you have limitless options because you're going to be able to find everything that you're looking for in just one website. And then, of course, you want to have access to best prices. So when it comes to marketplaces, when you have different sellers offering even the same product, you're going to have more competition and you're going to be providing better prices for the end user. So we already covered these three things, and now we enter into the core topic that we're going to be developing with Ben here, which is related to a seamless delivery and a return experience, because this is now an expectation from customers. We know that the big marketplaces that we know today, they have set the bar really high when it comes to making available delivery options, several of them, for the customers to choose if they want to be delivered at home or in a pickup point or in the store or somewhere else, but also to be able to have return options, especially if they are free and not something that is going to be hustle. So that is going to be complicated, sorry. So this is very important key for convenient marketplaces. And finally, the zero friction journey, so that the whole experience, the whole purchasing journey of your end user is actually seamless, that they have nothing to deal with, complicated, easy to do. And this is going to make you stand out from the competitors that you may have out there. So let us see how we can deal a little bit better when it comes to seamless delivery and returns. Ben, why don't you tell us more a little bit about this when we look at these figures?
Yeah, with pleasure. Actually, I might just jump back one slide if that's okay, Daniela, because
sure.
we set these things up as sort of separate, almost mutually exclusive pillars, but I think this one, seamless delivery and returns, just looking at it, at least affects the two either side of it, because when an end user is looking at prices, they will be taking into account not only the price of the product, but also the price of the delivery as well. And clearly that will depend on sort of how the sales channel or how the marketplace or how the vendor does their fulfillment or does their logistics, does their delivery. And then also that last one, zero friction customer journey, we mustn't forget that the delivery is the only real sort of physical point of contact with the order. And it's probably going to stay that way. Sometimes I wonder sort of on a sort of 20, 30, 50 year horizon, are we still going to need delivery? Are we all going to have 3D printers in our houses that can just sort of print the product as soon as we order it? But I think for a long time at least, we're going to need delivery, and therefore it's a huge part of that zero friction customer journey, perhaps even the most important bit. But I just wanted to underline, because it's there, it's the fourth column, but its impact is even broader than that.
I totally agree with you.
There's some interesting stats on the next slide, I think, that are helpful to look at. And I think, here we're just kind of saying that when customers are choosing their purchase, a big thing that comes into the purchasing decision is the delivery experience or delivery option. So here we say that 40% of customers say they'll never purchase with a website again if they have a bad delivery experience. Hardly surprising. 60% are going to sort of shop around. If they might find the product they want on a certain site, even for the price they want. But if the delivery option doesn't correspond to what they were hoping for or their needs, they're going to just find another site which has exactly the same or a very similar product for a very similar price. And so I guess the whole point of what we're saying here is, for a long time, the sort of logistics or fulfillment or delivery has almost been a bit of a dirty word. It's not the sexiest part of e-commerce. But I think what we're seeing more and more is that more and more people are understanding that it's not just a necessary evil. It's actually a strategic differentiator and a way to drive more traffic, to drive more sales, and to have people coming back if you do it properly.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Ben, also something that I wanted to point out with these figures is that marketplaces or e-commerce in general, they do have to invest a lot of money when it comes to acquiring new customers. And so if they have already acquired that customer, but if they're going to lose it because the delivery experience was not as expected, then there's a lot of invested that has been, lost there, and they are not going to be recovering this customer. It's going to be hugely expensive to actually bring him or her back. So this is also very, very important for them to consider, because of course it's less expensive to keep your existing customer base and to increase the average purchasing ticket with that existing customer base and acquiring new customers. So these are things that you have to be very careful with. You have to plan, and you have to be able to deliver what customers are expecting. Otherwise, you're going to be losing them, and they're going to be going somewhere else. Like you were saying, there will be another website that will be meeting their expectations, providing the delivery options and the return options that they were looking for. So it's very important. Yeah.
It's a great point. If you're looking to have high churn, then having a bad delivery experience is a great way to achieve that.
Yeah. And I think it's really important, as today we're talking about marketplaces, to remember that marketplaces do monitor deliveries by the merchants that sell on those platforms.
Yeah.
Whether you're the biggest retailer in the brand in the country or the smallest independent seller, if you're consistently giving a bad delivery experience, that marketplace is going to start lowering your listings in search rankings, and until frankly you're just not selling anything because you're hidden at the bottom of the search ratings.
Exactly.
So it really, really is key to give it a great delivery experience. And I think this is probably a good time to jump in and ask a question, which is, have you seen any trends recently in terms of end customers' needs and wants? And I'm thinking of lots of things here. I'm thinking we just had the pandemic, which has changed people's lives enormously. Many people have been able to work from home with its challenges, but that's meant that largely they're always in when a delivery arrives. But now they're returning to the offices again. And so that brings in the old, what is a convenient delivery? But also, I think people are starting to have different expectations. The environment and green issues are increasingly coming to the fore. And I'm thinking we still see packages arriving in massive boxes with tons of polystyrene and packaging. And I think that part of that journey probably is not sort of a delivery or fulfillment problem, but it's actually a manufacturing problem when the package is put together in the first place. But it certainly doesn't help if a fulfillment partner or the retailer themselves then puts everything in polybubble wrapping and a plastic bag and everything else, and some plastic tape on a cardboard box that can't easily be recycled. So what are you seeing in terms of customer needs and demands? What are they actually looking for?
Yeah, great question. And I think you started answering your own question there, Chris, with the green point. I'd love to spend a bit more time on that. It's a really important one. I mean, there's almost a triumvirate of sort of, three things that are always going to be key when it comes to delivery. And then there's a whole set of sort of secondary and issues that people are asking for. Those three things for me are the speed, the cost, and the reliability. That for me is pretty sort of concrete. I don't see it changing a huge amount. Beyond that, what we see is, as you say, people wanting a bit more choice in terms of when their delivery can happen, where they can get it. And so unsurprisingly, during the pre-pandemic, depends a lot on the geography, which country we're talking about, but pre-pandemic, we saw a huge increase in pickup points. Then, of course, during pandemic, unsurprisingly, a huge decrease in demand for pickup point deliveries, which I think is now restarting again, as you say, as people are going back to work, we're seeing a little bit more of it. we see people being more and more demanding in terms of like booking a window delivery slot. Not everyone can offer that at the moment, but we see that something that consumers value more and more. And then, as you say, outside of the sort of convenience or having choice in terms of delivery, green is becoming a massive thing. No one wants to open the sort of, you order a package of paper clips and it comes in a cardboard box the size of your car. We've all been there, and it's extremely frustrating, not just from an environmental point of view, but also just practically having to get rid of the box afterwards or take it to the recycling bin or whatever. So that's really big, and we see a lot of companies are sort of dancing around the issue. They're putting in place sort of initiatives. For example, we with our transporters we have, and with our warehouse providers, we use 3D packing. It's actually quite impressive when you see it in the warehouse. It's a robot that will pack the product to within sort of a few millimeters of the product dimensions. Hugely impressive, and also a double win in the sense that it's better for the environment. We're using less material. It's better for the environment in the sense that you put more packages in one lorry, and also it's better for costs as well for the same reason. We're using less material, less packaging in the same lorry. So there's lots of little initiatives like that, which can be helpful. But I think we're still dancing around the issue a little bit as an industry. I think it's only when we get to, for example, truly carbon neutral pricing tariffs, or for example, the option to offset the carbon emissions linked to the delivery or to the purchase you've just made. A bit like when you take a flight, you can sort of pay a few pounds more and say, I want to offset the carbon emissions. I think that's the sort of the holy grail that logistics and fulfillment will get to at one point, and I think we're being pushed there by more and more consumers asking for sustainable and for environmentally friendly treatment of their orders.
And then a question on the same lines that's coming from the audience, which I find really interesting actually. Does the consumer need for a premium delivery also include the need for a premium returns option? And I think that's really interesting, because when we're buying a product, we generally want to get it really, really quickly. But does it really matter how quickly the returns happen, or is there a need for premium returns?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The need, of course, depends a lot on the category that we're talking about. I mean, unsurprisingly, apparel and clothing is extremely high return rate, and if you're sort of looking for your pair of jeans, you're almost certainly gonna. I mean, there's a huge risk in sort of buying a pair of jeans online. You just never know. If they're quite going to fit or not. Given the choice between a sales channel which is offering you a smooth and fast returns process and a low cost returns process, and one who isn't, it's pretty obvious which one you're going to choose. So it does depend on the sort of category. It does depend on the geography as well. Germany is famous for its high return rate, a little bit more than the UK and France, for example. But all things being equal, yeah, of course, the returns is hugely important, because it gives your end consumers so much more confidence to make the purchase.
Fantastic. So can we talk a little bit about the risks of working with a fulfillment partner? And really, to allay people's fears that giving up control, I know if I've got a product in my warehouse, I know I've packed it, I know I've shipped it, I know it's got my invoice and my branding on it. I know the tracking number because, well, I just bought the postage or the courier label for it. I've seen the courier pick it up. And there's so much that could go wrong in a fulfillment partner. Like, they don't know my products, or they pick the wrong product and get it, or they mix my stock with someone else's stock. What are the risks, and are they real risks, or am I worrying about things that really aren't going to happen?
It's a really good question, and I've thought about this a lot, and it's a lot of what our support and commercial teams talk about with our users as well, who are using our fulfillment service. In the sense that as your sort of brand grows, you often get to this point where up to a certain monthly volume, it's quite manageable to sort of handle things yourself. As volumes start to get more and more interesting, you face the choice either to sort of invest in, your own warehousing or your own transport contracts, or to sort of outsource it to a fulfillment provider. And at that point there, for those who sort of choose to work with a fulfillment partner, there's often a bit of a psychological barrier in the sense that it's okay if when you're doing it, you make a mistake, but it's quite different when you've outsourced it to someone else and they make the occasional mistake. And of course it happens, right? The quality of service percentages are extremely high with the fulfillment provider. So yeah, of course, there will be the occasional package which is a bit late, but you're talking sort of one in 10,000 or something like that. So it's really, really low. But it's just the fact that you as the brand, you as the vendor, don't control anymore. It's a bit of a sort of psychological barrier to get across, I think. So I suppose to answer your question, Chris, for me, it's not really a huge risk because typically when you work with a fulfillment partner, you're working with huge automated, highly professional warehouses, which have monitoring KPIs all of the time. It's a really impressive thing to see. And so, of course, there are the occasional mistakes, but typically the quality of service that a fulfillment provider delivers is significantly higher than what a vendor would be able to do on their own. But of course, it's a psychological sort of step to overcome, the fact that you're not doing this stuff yourself anymore. With that, though, of course, you save a huge amount of time. And I spoke to a vendor a couple of weeks ago, really small, growing, who stocks in their garage at the moment, and they still, when there are orders each day, they will queue up at La Poste, the French version of the post office, to go and deliver those orders. And so, of course, it's an approach which is great to start with, but not massively scalable. And for them also, they had the same sort of step to overcome. Hey, I'm not comfortable outsourcing it, but when you see the amount of time you save, the fact that you get higher quality of service, typically for lower costs as well, it's a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah. And just if I may to compliment on that one, the risk will be also associated with how carefully you selected that fulfillment partner or provider, because of course, like for any industry, you have the specialist of the specialists, and nowadays we also have specialists in fulfillment for marketplaces or e-commerce who will be better fit or who have built their business purposely for that specific need. So that's also something that will help sellers or people who want to hire this kind of service to better choose it, to take into consideration certain things. And we're going to cover some of this later on, but yeah, it's also something that that has to be taken into consideration.
We've got another question from the audience, which I think is interesting. Is speed more important than flexibility when it comes to consumer expectations? And I kind of like to almost flip that on its head, because often the flexibility isn't something that I as a retailer can choose to offer. If I'm selling on a marketplace, I've really got to fit my offering with what they want me to offer, which for some marketplaces might be, hey, I've got a premium, a standard, and economy delivery. For other marketplaces is, I've got a 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. cutoff time for next day's delivery. Some marketplaces might want me to offer same day delivery. Some might even want to allow me to use my retail outlets as fulfillment centers, and they'll send a courier to come in, pick it up and drop it off to a local customer on the same day. There's a whole range of flexibility. So what is more important, do you think? Obviously, you've got to fit with what the marketplace offers, but is it speed or is it convenience that consumers really want?
It's almost an impossible question. I think that the two are very important. Interestingly, again, it's something that does vary by market, for example. So I know that in Germany, speed is hugely important. There's sort of same day or sort of 2-hour delivery is a must if you're operating a sales channel in Germany or in a German marketplace. Whereas in France, it's not the case. I'm not going to draw any sort of national stereotype assumptions behind that, but it's something that, of course, is important. It's part of that sort of triumvirate of like sort of speed, cost, reliability that people look for. I couldn't say whether it's more important than convenience or not, or flexibility. And you raised a good point, Chris, about sort of having an offer or being able to have fulfillment options which match with what the marketplace you're selling on are asking for. And that I think is an important part in choosing a fulfillment partner. There's various fulfillment partners on the market. You know, we are one. Choosing someone who has a range of options, such that when you do the settings for your boutique in the marketplace, you're able to be consistent with what they are looking for and what sort of your competition on the marketplace are offering as well.
Yeah, just to...
I've really dodged your question about which is better, convenience.
I would say based on the analysis from, industry analysts, they all convey into convenience, because somehow convenience was mostly related to fast delivery in the early days, let's say, of e-commerce. But nowadays, convenience has now been reshaped, especially because of what happened with the pandemic. And expectations of customers have changed. They have now been forced, some of them, to use online channels to do the groceries, to buy anything they wanted, anything they needed. And now they have tasted like the advantages of online shopping. So that's why this convenience has been now transformed, it's been reshaped. And now they're looking for flexible options, because we also see some reports saying that they want to have different delivery options, but they also want to be able to switch from one option to another. First, they chose, I wanted to be delivered at home, but now it seems that I'm not going to be home anymore because I have to do this or that. So now I want to be able to pick it at the store or pick it at a delivery point. So this is something that they are expecting now, which is huge. It's a lot of flexibility in terms of the delivery, but also in the returning. And we are also seeing more concerns about, delivering in a package that is also it's also going to be reusable for the returns in case that needed. So that is also something that we are seeing a lot, at least on what we see on analysis and reports, and also on our experience with sellers and of course our marketplaces that we're working with.
So I think this is really interesting, and I've got a question. I'd like you to tell us a bit more about Autopia and what you do as a fulfillment partner, but also, why shouldn't I just work directly with a 3PL, a third-party logistics company? What's the difference?
Sure. Take that one. It's a really interesting one. And the fundamental difference with a fulfillment partner, is that a fulfillment partner sort of gives you access to typical logistics players and to big transport contracts, which, depending on the scale of your development, depending on the size of your business, you might not be able to justify if you're a sort of small to medium sized business. So, for example, that chap that I spoke to a few weeks ago, who literally still stocks in his garage and queues up at the post office. The likelihood that he's going to sort of rock up to a big 3PL and say, hey, I'm selling sort of 10, 100 orders a month. Can you handle my logistics and fulfillment for me? It's going to be pretty slim. And that's the case up to, even if you're selling sort of hundreds, even thousands of orders per month. A lot of our sellers sell sort of 2,000-3,000 orders per month with us. It still can be more efficient to work with a fulfillment provider. The second thing is about the sort of convenience, but for the users, not for the end customer, in the sense that if you work with a fulfillment partner, they will have access to all of the sort of assets that a 3PL actor will have, like warehouses, like transport contracts, but they will also provide you with access to a piece of software, typically, which allows you to manage all of that, and also to easily connect to the sales channels on which you're selling. In that sense, it's much more turned towards the typical sort of e-commerce user. Our software, for example, we're adding new marketplace connections all of the time, so that a vendor can simply sort of in one or two clicks say, I've just opened a boutique on whatever sales channel it is. The connection allows the order information and stock information to flow from their sales channels, from their marketplace, into the warehouses and vice versa. And if you're working with a 3PL, they may have software like that. They might not. And typically 3PLs are maybe just slightly less accustomed to dealing with with connectivity of that nature. So those are the two things for me. In some cases, it does make sense direct with a 3PL. Maybe if you're a big established player with lots of volumes already, you may want to go and deal just straight with a 3PL. But even if you are, working with a fulfillment provider can often give you a degree of connectivity to sales channels and a degree of sort of tracking information availability that you might not necessarily get with a 3PL.
And to complement on that, we also had this to show the different options that actually a marketplace may have when it comes to how to work this fulfillment part. And so basically, they can either just let the seller do the whole work, like it still happens today. Like they do the catalog, they do the products, and they also do the order management. They take care of it once the purchase is done. But then this provides a great risk that has been covered already somehow by Ben. The great risk that you are not controlling this part, that you don't have the visibility of where the parcel is, when is it going to be delivered, if it was delivered with quality, if the delay was respected, etc. And so another option that they may have is that the marketplace operator, they can open their own warehouse and build its own software, just like Ben was mentioning before. It's something that is required for all this fulfillment operation. But of course, this comes with a great upfront investment when it comes to having a known warehouse and to developing your own software. And in terms of of the things that you're going to need in terms of facilities, but also in terms of workforce to develop the whole thing. And the third option is to choose a fulfillment partner as a marketplace operator, of course, considering the volume that you're going to be handling and all this. But it's something that will allow you to externalize all this complexity, to trust this partner, to actually do the work, because that's their expertise, that will allow you to focus on your core part of your business, and to be making your marketplace more attractive for the customers. And then you will have to come up with this huge upfront investment, at least at the beginning. It will give you some time to see if this is an option that you will be able to carry on with in the future. But at least you will have this covered for now. I know, Ben, if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if we have any sort of marketplace operators or would-be marketplace operators in the audience, but it's an interesting. We have this discussion a lot with our sort of marketplace clients. We work both with sellers, vendors, and also marketplace operators, and they often they have understood how important fulfillment is, for all the reasons that Chris mentioned a little bit earlier on. That if you've got loads of sellers on your marketplace, if they're all doing their own thing, then some will do it well, some will do it poorly, but on average, the sort of the quality of fulfillment or logistics service might not be very high, and then as a result, the marketplace will suffer from sort of low NPS and low rates of repeat purchases, that sort of thing. So they understand it's super important, but then they're sort of facing the question: okay, well, if we want to sort of build our own fulfillment centers, have our own transport contract, have the software that sort of pins all of that together, it's easy to forget how important the software is and the sort of the technical flows that need to occur as well. They're looking at it, they're looking down the barrel of a big old CapEx investment and a sort of multi-year project. And so in a lot of cases, we sort of partner with marketplaces to help them sort of do fulfillment light by sort of working with someone like us in the first case, in that we already have the warehouses, we already have the software, we just need to do a little integration to them or sort of onboard their vendors, and then they can benefit from all of the good things about fulfillment without necessarily going through that sort of CapEx intensive process of finding and setting up warehouses and software. So it's a really interesting question. Ultimately, there will be some of these marketplaces who, a few years down the line, say, okay, well, thanks very much, fulfillment partner. Now we want to go it alone. We've got to the volume where it's justifiable to have our own warehouses. We want to bring this in-house to control it, and also to benefit from the extra margin that we'll get from running it ourselves. But in a lot of cases, when people are starting out, it can make a lot of sense to sort of do it with a partner rather than doing the sort of complex intensive route.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned the sort of partnership and accompaniment. Can you give us some examples of what makes for a really good partnership with a fulfillment house? What extra services, etc., there may be thrown in or purchased, and as well as what makes a good fulfillment company partnership. On the opposite, what makes a good retailer as a partner for you as a fulfillment company?
Sure, yeah, it's a good one. I'm going to answer the first bit in two parts, because we partner, of course, with sort of sellers and vendors, but also with sort of and marketplaces as well. Just in the first one, we said earlier on that a lot of things that stresses a vendor out when they work with a fulfillment house or a fulfillment player is the fact that they're no longer in control. They don't have the stock anymore. So what there is super simple, that they want to have someone on the end of a phone who they can pick up the phone to, and who can sort of advise them, say what their levels of stock are. And of course, they have all that information already in the software. But someone who can sort of partner with them to sort of look ahead as well, and to say, okay, the shopping season's coming up, or January sales are coming up. Here are the SKUs that have performed really well. We would recommend resupplying a certain amount of SKUs into the warehouse to find them a slot to receive that stock in the warehouse, and generally just to smooth the process and to reassure them. So for me, there's maybe three things there. There's a sort of the human element, that they can pick up the phone and deal with a person, rather than, even though the software is good, people want to be able to deal with a person when they're talking about something this important. And the second thing, I guess, is helping predict key periods. And then I guess the third thing is sort of making everything a smooth, sort of seamless process. The second bit of the question was sort of how, what about sort of retailers?
What makes a good retailer partner?
Yeah, exactly. Again, I'm going to sort of tackle it two ways. So firstly, what makes a good fulfillment partner for a retailer? What makes a retailer a good partner for us? I think what a retailer or a marketplace should look for in a fulfillment partner, above and beyond all of the things we've mentioned, like the sort of quality of service, quality of the physical assets, the warehouses, quality of the software, above all of that sort of stuff, is actually someone who has run a marketplace and fulfillment already, and knows how to join the dots between those two to increase the performance of the marketplace. Because there's lots of people who know how to do fulfillment. There's not many who have run a marketplace with fulfillment. In fact, there's very, very few. And so that's a really important thing in terms of knowing how to commercialize it, but make the link with search engine ranking on the marketplace, to make the link with availability of the buy box in order to boost marketplace GMV. That's definitely something that they should look for in a fulfillment partner. And without blowing our own trumpet, I think that's one thing that we're quite strong on. What makes a retailer a good partner for a fulfillment house is someone just with ambition, to be honest. So someone who understands how fulfillment is a strategic growth driver, who has clear goals, but is maybe sort of prepared to be sort of open-minded and to sort of listen to advice in terms of the KPIs necessary to set up to make sure that fulfillment is really being used as a marketplace boost. But someone who understands that it's not just the nitty-gritty of sort of orders on lorries going up and down motorways, but it's that sort of strategic growth driver for the GMV of the marketplace.
And is your fulfillment technology compatible with any e-commerce or marketplace site, or do they need to be running on particular platforms or have particular types of APIs available to enable you to integrate with them? And this is important if I'm a marketplace wanting to work with you, but equally if I'm a retailer, I want to be selling on marketplaces that can work with my fulfillment provider.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Chris. And I guess I'll let Ben to comment on that one. I'll just wanted to show quickly what fulfillment was, because we have been talking about fulfillment a lot since the beginning of the session, and perhaps not everyone is quite familiar with what does it mean and what does it actually do for you. So this is just to show you that fulfillment is basically taking care of of the products and or the packages for the marketplace, and also for the seller, so that they are stored correctly in warehousing space. And whenever a purchase is done on the marketplace or in the online store, it's actually delivered as expected for that end user. So this is something that we use to explain rather quickly to potential sellers who want to work with us, or potential marketplaces who want to develop to include this kind of service. And it's important for them to understand that what we have developed in Autopia is something that takes into consideration all the different elements that Benjamin was talking about earlier when it comes to a good fulfillment partner. Because Autopia has developed the software platform that is going to be handling all this flow of information between how the store, the stock or the inventory is managed at the warehousing space, and then how the orders are going to be managed and delivered and even returned, which is very important. We have an extensive network of warehousing space across Europe. It started initially in France, and as this is where the company is headquartered, but it's now been extended to Spain, to Germany. It's going to be growing to other countries as well. And finally, Autopia has been born as a spin-off of a European marketplace leader based in France as well, which is Cdiscount. And we leverage on all the expertise when it comes to fulfillment practices for a marketplace. So this is very specific. Our solution is purpose-built for this specific need. So the platform that we have developed is compatible with many other actors, so many OMS, WMSs that you have to connect it with when you are trying to put this together and trying to launch this kind of service for you, so for your marketplace. So to answer that question, yeah, it's completely compatible. It's API based. It's quite modular, so you don't have to get the whole thing when it comes to our fulfillment offer. It can adapt to the specific needs that you have, and we can also provide support when it comes the time for you to grow, to start your own fulfillment service. If you want to establish your own warehousing, and when it comes to have just the platform or the software portion of it, depending on the specific case. But just to mention that you don't have to get the whole thing because probably you don't need the whole thing, but it can be broken down into what you specifically need.
And can you talk about the kind of business model, of the journey for a seller from end to end, from when they first contact you to what services they can actually implement, Daniela, please?
Yes, of course. So it's quite simple. We have a account management dedicated for the fulfillment part of our solution, because we cover the whole, let's say, marketplace platform, not only the fulfillment part in Autopia. But when it comes to fulfillment, so basically sellers, they come to us, they reach out an account manager, and they explain what they are trying to do. If they just need transport services, if they need the whole thing from managing their inventory and connecting that inventory to different marketplaces where they are already selling online, and so that we can take care of all the picking, the packing, the delivery, and also the return of those products when the purchases are made. So basically, it's quite simple for them to access this service. They're going to be presented with how the platform works. It's actually quite intuitive. We have developed an interface that reunites all the information that is going to be relevant for the seller, and it's very business oriented. It also includes a dashboard of how the activity is going, so that they can keep up the track with KPIs, because it's also something that marketplaces work with quality KPIs. So if the seller is not up to those standards, they might lose their spot in that marketplace in question. So that's also something that we help them survey to keep an eye on, and all this information is there. They can have the visibility of the whole life cycle of the product until it's delivered, and we can also take care of the returns and actually classify the product based on rules of classifications that they may have or that the marketplace in question may have. So this is one possibility. We also have another possibility to actually pick up that inventory directly from the seller who has already a purchase confirmed and deliver it directly to the end user, which is like an express kind of service. And we have other options available, but basically this is what they can access with Autopia.
And it's interesting you're a spin-off from Cdiscount, because we've got a question. As a high-end brand, what delivery options or practices should I put into action to align and protect my brand image? And of course, Cdiscount is quite an upscale marketplace. They only accept brands on their marketplace. So I'm guessing that Cdiscount have already aligned the delivery practices with what brands expect. But how can other marketplaces learn from that?
Hey guys, I dropped out for a few minutes, but I'm sure you're better off without me. But I did hear that question though, and yeah, it's an important one. And one thing that's clearly, as has been mentioned, we're a spin-off from Cdiscount, France's second largest marketplace. And of course, what they put in place on fulfillment over a number of years was a very comprehensive set of sort of quality indicators that vendors and sellers had to adhere to in order to just be listed on the marketplace, but then those who perform really well typically, as you mentioned, Chris, get preferential treatment in search rankings and all that sort of stuff. I guess to answer the question, maybe the first thing a brand should ensure that they are able to do is just align their sort of fulfillment practice with the quality standards that a marketplace is looking for. And this can be all sorts of things, from the sort of delivery end-to-end lead times, the cut-off times that are applied on a marketplace, ensuring that the fulfillment partner is using the same sort of KPIs and the same cut-off times and the same settings that a marketplace expects is a big thing for a brand. It's the basics, to be honest. It's the sort of basics that you need to get right in order to not be sort of disadvantageously treated on a sales channel or a marketplace.
And it's
go ahead, Daniela.
Sorry. Now I was just going to mention, because it's also another trend globally that we are seeing a lot today, is that not just because marketplaces are taking the leadership when it comes to sales in online channels, they haven't, retailers in general, they haven't abandoned the concept of having still a physical store or having a presence elsewhere. So there is now this trend of omni-channel and addressing all the different sales points that they can to be present where the customer is at different times in the purchasing journey, let's say. So it's very important to deliver the same kind of experience, the same quality of this experience across all these different channels. So, for instance, if you only had at the beginning delivery at the store with a certain level of quality, you have to at least deliver this same quality when you are delivering elsewhere. And the same goes for the rest of the services that you're going to be offering for the marketplace. But when it comes to delivery, to answer the question, you have to make sure that the service that you are providing at some sales point, you have to respect it across the different presence that you have. So the customer has the same level of service, and they are able to associate you with this image across all the different channels where you are.
Totally. Now, we've got about 30 seconds left, and I know we've got some questions from the audience that we haven't got to yet. So just to wrap up, Daniela and Ben, if someone wants to find out more or get their questions asked, how do they get in touch with you? Any final words for the last sort of 15 seconds I think we've got left?
I guess any final words is just don't forget that fulfillment is not just a tool for you to deliver a great experience for your customers, but it's also something that will help you grow your business, because it will help you your existing customers become your ambassadors and bring other ones to improve your sales, because of the average number of the average ticket, it's going to increase. So this is going to have you bring you more customer and convert more easily. So don't forget, this is also a very important driver for growth. And when it comes to reaching out to Autopia, you can reach us via our website, autopia.com, or in our LinkedIn website. But you also can have access to our emails, which I probably didn't. No, we don't have them here. Well, we can definitely add them on the chat for everyone.
Yeah,
to see.
If you go to the Autopia showcase on the Tame Bay Live platform, you'll be able to get in touch with them there. So if you've got any other questions, please go to the showcase and just drop a link, a message, and either Daniela, Ben, or one of their colleagues will be in touch with you. But Daniela and Ben, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fascinating. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Cheers, Chris. Thanks, everyone.